So let's go ahead and go in here, and all we got to do is add some code. A piece. I'm going to use alpha instead of visible. And then what we'll do, very simply, is we will add a collision listener. So we'll say a piece. I'm just randomly putting this. So let me explain a little bit what I'm doing here. This is the part where we create the visual object. So each of these segments here, one of them will run. Only one will run. And at that point, a piece will contain a reference to a new image rect or a circle. So at this point, I'm going to say make it visible. So it starts invisible, sets the alpha to 0. If we rerun at this point, jump, and now we got an invisible circle we're running around, right? But that's not exactly what we want. What we really want is we want it to kind of pop into view when we jump on it and go, hey, that's pretty cool. So then you go, we want to add a collision listener. We got to do that after we add the body. That's the best time to do it. You could do it before, because all this code will get executed. It'll get sort of like set up, and then in the next frame it takes action. But I kind of like to do things in the logical order. So after we add the body, then we'll say a piece. Sorry, I hit the caps lock. Collision equals function self event. You can probably hear me typing, and I apologize for that. So what we want to do is on the began phase, if the alpha is 0, we want it to fade in. So if began event.phase equals began and self alpha equals 0, so it hasn't changed yet or even started to change, then end. And for safety, the way I always set up my collision listeners when may have other listeners out there is I always return false, which is kind of contrary to the way other people do it. But what this does is it says, hey, I did what I needed to do, but go ahead and propagate this collision listener. If you've got more, propagate it. I don't want to block other collision listeners for this event from executing. So if I return false, and this is the first one that gets called, and there are other listeners, then the other listeners will still get called. But if I return true here, then the other listeners may not get called, and you may get like weird behavior, like, hey, why is a jump not working? Or some other collision event that you expected to occur suddenly isn't getting executed, and your game breaks. So my tip for people is return false unless you need to stop the collision sequence. Only return true in the case where you want to stop propagating the collision event and you don't want to process it anymore. So I always return true, but in the case where the phase began and the alpha is 0, I do a transition to and self alpha equals 1, time equals probably like 250 milliseconds. And let's just make it kind of fun. Transition, easing, transition equals easing, out, bounce, which then actually, as a tip, whenever you use the out bounce or any of those that have motion at the end, what I think of as motion, you need to add another 500 milliseconds to make it look right, so at least, because otherwise it runs too fast. So let's make that 750 milliseconds. Now what should happen is when we reload and I jump and hit it, oh wait, I forgot that nothing will happen because I forgot to do this. One could type collision. Okay, now we'll get something. So I added a functionality here, a function to grab the collision event. I added the listener code. Then I activate it by saying a piece add event listener. Now when I jump, boop, it fades in.
Nice.
Okay, so let's make that, obviously we had no idea that was there, and we had no reason to jump there. So let's give ourselves a reason. Let's add a coin above it So we're like, well, how do I get to that coin?
Yeah,
So
which is always, that was always the things in Mario. You either accidentally found it, or you were kind of destined to find it, but then that really sort of spurred you to really want to like randomly check the rest of the level.
Exactly. So I added the coin. Now, if I did it right, there should be a coin right here when I reload, and there's not. I'm always off by one. I'm not very good at this. I do this every time when I do this on my own.
You didn't carry the one.
Try one more down and let that be it. There it is. Okay, now we got a coin. We're like, well, what?
Yeah.
How do I get there? Well, maybe there's a bridge over here. There's no bridge over here. What's going on? Oh. All right, so there, in 7 minutes, we did a new piece for Charles.
Yay! Nice.
So that's my point here for people who are watching this. This is really, at this point, very simple. It's easy to create new prototype platforms. And then if you want to create new kinds of pickups, you want to look at the coins. Or if you want to create new danger objects, go look at spikes. Now, one thing that I'd kind of like to do in a future episode, I would like to add turrets. Now, nobody responded when I put it in the forums, so I'm not sure if people don't care. But one of the things they've got in They Must Be Fed, or They Need to Be Fed, is turrets. Later, as you get further along, and then they got these turrets where you're like going around and they shoot at you, of course. And I just thought that'd be kind of cool. So it would demonstrate a whole new set of physics features that people often want to understand how to achieve, which is aiming and firing a projectile. But in addition to that, these would be self-guided projectiles that would continue to try to hit you for a certain period of time. They would change their motion, their aim. They'd be seeking missiles instead of just like shooting in one direction.
I think that would be great to see. I mean,
in fact, we could do both. We could do a simple directed turret that just shoots in a direction, and we could do seeking missiles because they're very similar.
Yeah, I think that would be. I think it would be a great addition because then people could have an example of that they could pull out and use in their games.
Yeah, and at that point, I think this game would be done enough that people could take it and start to do stuff with it.
So now we've got a level menu when we first start.
Yeah, so we got that on the framed version of the game.
Yeah, was there did we say we could do reloading?
Reloading.
Or is that not ready yet? Or is that not?
Well, reloading is occurring already, but going into how it happens in the next 1 minute probably isn't going to happen.
Okay. Well, we can come back and do that later.
So the code's already in there. So like when you die, here, let's kill ourselves.
It automatically reloads.
It automatically reloads. And actually, I talked about where the code was, I think, in episode 2 or 3. So, so I could point it out again.
So I think
I think what we were going to try to talk about was builders and then checkpoints.
Okay.
Checkpoints are going to be a little different.
Okay. So you still want to do checkpoints?
You know what? I would like to do turrets and weapons first. Things firing at you. A new danger type. Because the checkpoints to me, thus far for our game, not necessary because the levels are quite small.
Right.
So it almost seems more reasonable to just make people do it again.
Okay. And so at this point, is there a mechanism for getting back to the level menu?
Yeah. Except that it's broken. Well, I goofed up. I'll fix it when I go to commit it today. I think I fixed that last week. So what happens is you'll see there's this button, but then I forgot when you load the next level that I need to refloat this button, basically push it to the front. So what happens is this whole scene gets destroyed, and then my layer system's goofed up, and so it's not pushing this button in front. I did something wrong. I need to go fix that.
So it's there. It's just in the background.
Yeah. So what should happen is if I kill myself, boom.
Okay.
It reloaded, and where'd the heck the thing go? I goofed up.
Okay.
I goof up.
Hey, well, we'll let we'll let it slide.
Was there a question there?
Did somebody on the panel have a question?
I want to show you something. I had a little fun. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see this. My screen.
Yeah.
Right. So when I reload it, it generates a level.
Oh, you generated a level. Oh, we were talking about this last week.
Yeah. So it's automatically populating the fields. So every time you reload it.
So you've taken the source code and you've put in automatic level generation.
Well, it's just a math random basically. It selects a random letter and then a random number, and
So
then.
now what you need to do is put in rules for what can't be next to what.
Yeah, I know, but I spent 5 minutes on doing it.
That's pretty cool, though. I mean, see, I'm very happy with the fact that you were able to do that, because that tells me that the level base for how you generate the tables is it's straightforward. I mean, it can be generated. That means that it's relatively straightforward, so that it's not totally impossible to generate or create a level automatically.